All right, let's learn some stuff about world history. So as we look at these questions, so really there are probably the hardest part of this section is there are quite a few people to be familiar with. Like for a lot of this exam, you don't need to know a lot of depth, but you do need to know kind of the basics. But anyways, you also we'll go over the Mayans, the first democracy in the world, the Hundred Years' War, who was that between, intellectual basis of the Renaissance, which that question I believe has shown up in more than one video and more than one section, which usually is a sign probably something we want to commit to our memory. It's likely to show up who initiated the Protestant Revolution, and in the Manifesto, who are the proletariat and the bourgeois. Okay. The Han Dynasty was the second imperial dynasty of China from 206 BC to 220 AD, preceded by the Qin Dynasty and succeeded by the Three Kingdoms period, which was 220 to 280 AD. To this day, China's majority ethnic group refers to itself as the Han people, and the Chinese script is referred to as Han characters. The Han Dynasty was an age of economic prosperity and saw a significant growth of the money economy first established during the Zhou Dynasty, which was 1050 to 256 BC. The Mayans, this relates to one of our questions here, were known for their hieroglyphic script, which was the only fully developed writing system of the pre-Columbian peoples. They were also known for their contributions to art, architecture, mathematics, and the calendar. Right, so what was the question? What were the Mayans known for, right? Questions tend to be pretty straightforward. Right? And so your answer there would be hieroglyphic script. But could include art, architecture, math, and the calendar as well. The Romans took over and expanded upon the Hellenistic, which means Greek culture, passing down Greek architecture, philosophy, and science to future generations. Later, the Roman embrace of Christianity helped elevate that religion from a minor cult to one of the world's great religions. Roman law also influenced all subsequent legal systems in the West. Roman institutions also helped inspire the governance systems of modern democracies. Ancient Rome was an agrarian and slave-based economy. Okay, so quite a bit there on the Romans, commonly asked. The Ottomans ended the Byzantine Empire with the 1453 conquest of Constantinople by Mehmed the Conqueror. Okay. So the one you want there is the 1453 conquest of Constantinople. Okay. As we talk about Athenian democracy, developed around the 5th century BC in the Greek city-state of Athens, and is the first known democracy in the world. So that was another one of our questions, right? The first known democracy in the world. It was not the United States. Pericles was the longest lasting leader during this time period, typically referred to as the Golden Age. Greek architecture followed a highly structured system of proportions that was developed according to three styles or orders. Each order consists of an upright support called a column. The Doric, the Ionic, and the Corinthian were the three most well-known types of Greek architecture. The three Egyptian pyramids, known as the Giza pyramids, are Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. Khufu is the one to know, as it is the largest and generally referred to as the Great Pyramid. Okay, so now we get into people. So I believe this is a 2-slide discussion. Yeah. Okay, so we got about, I don't know, maybe 10 people here that y'all have to just be familiar with, just kind of in a general sense. Joan of Arc is considered a heroine of France for her role during the Lancastrian phase of the Hundred Years' War, and was canonized as a Roman Catholic saint. She was put on trial by the pro-English bishop on a variety of charges. The bishop declared her guilty. She was burned at the stake on the 30th of May, 1431, dying at about 19 years of age. So it tends to be like the dates, like you're really not going to be tested on those. Like if you knew like what century that was in, that would be nice. Um, but really knowing much more that she was uh, burned at the stake and was considered a heroine of France during the Hundred Years' War, that's really the stuff you want to know. Alexander the Great was tutored by Aristotle until the age of 16. He was a king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia and a member of the Argead dynasty. He was undefeated in battle and is widely considered one of history's most successful military commanders. The undefeated in battle part can certainly show up. Also tutored by Aristotle, that can show up as well. Charlemagne united a large part of Europe during the early Middle Ages and laid the foundations for modern France, Germany, and the Low Countries. He was the first recognized emperor in Western Europe, and since the fall of the Western Roman Empire 3 centuries earlier. Genghis Khan was the founder and great Khan, or emperor, of the Mongol Empire, which became the largest contiguous empire in history after his death. He came to power by uniting many of the nomadic tribes of Northeast Asia. 30 to 60 million people were killed in their campaigns, building the largest known land empire. It stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Black Sea. And Mao Zedong, so he has shown up in more than one video and more than one section in the app. So we definitely want to know who he is. He was a Chinese communist revolutionary and founding father of the People's Republic of China, which he ruled as an autocrat. Copernicus. After studying in Italy, Copernicus returned to Poland convinced that the Earth revolves around the sun. In the following century, Kepler elaborated upon and expanded this model to include elliptical orbits, and Galileo presented supporting observations made using a telescope. An Augustinian monk, Martin Luther, nailed his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg. In doing this, he unknowingly initiated the Protestant Revolution. I believe Protestant Revolution was one of our questions. If not, it shows up a ton. He challenged the authority and office of the Pope by teaching that the Bible is the only source of divinely revealed knowledge from God. Luther came to reject several teaching and practices of the Roman Catholic Church. A couple more here. I've got 4 more people to know. Ferdinand Magellan started what would be the first circumnavigation of the globe. He was killed in 1521, but 15 of his sailors continued back to Europe. Circumnavigation, that just means to travel all the way around the entire planet or an island or continent. Cortez conquered the Aztec Empire by allying himself with the other people who hated the Aztecs for some reason. He brought large portions of mainland Mexico under the rule of the King of Castile in the early 16th century. Cortez was part of the generation of Spanish colonizers who began the first phase of the Spanish colonization of the Americas. Marco Polo was not the first European to reach China, but he was the first to leave a detailed chronicle of his experience. This book inspired Christopher Columbus and many other travelers. And then finally we have Darwin, who's best known for his contributions to the science of evolution. He established that all species of life have descended over time from common ancestors. Darwin stated that evolution resulted from a process that he called natural selection. Okay, and then a little bit here with war and cultural movements. The 100 Years' War, this is what definitely one to be familiar with, because in different variations it does show up usually a couple times. The Hundred Years' War pitted the kings and kingdoms of France and England against each other from 1337 to 1453. The end of the conflict was never marked by a peace treaty, but died out because the English recognized that the French troops were too strong to be directly confronted. The Peasants' Revolt was a major uprising across England in 1381. There were various causes of the revolt, but the one most often cited is the high taxes from the Hundred Years' War. So, Peasants' Revolt definitely relates in there with the Hundred Years' War. The French Revolution began in 1789 and ended in the late 1790s with the ascent of Napoleon Bonaparte. The French Revolution uprooted institutions such as absolute monarchy and the feudal system. France established a republic, and many future nations would be influenced by the will of free people. So everything we had there, really pretty important. And then finally, the Renaissance started as a cultural movement in Italy in the late medieval period and later spread to the rest of Europe. The intellectual basis of the Renaissance was a new version of humanism, which was based on the rediscovery of the classical Greek philosophy. This new thinking became manifest in art, architecture, politics, science, and literature. Okay, and then we just have a couple miscellaneous ones here. The Euphrates River is the longest and one of the most historically important rivers in Western Asia. Together with the Tigris, it is one of the two defining rivers of Mesopotamia. The Black Plague, also known as the bubonic plague, began in China. In Europe, it killed about 1/3 of inhabitants. Vast social changes resulted. Workers became a scarce commodity, increasing their bargaining power with employers. Farmland reverted back to forests as the number of farmers decreased. And then finally, we have the Manifesto, famous book, presented an analytical approach to the class struggle and the problems of capitalism and the capitalist mode of production, rather than a prediction of communism's potential future forms. In capitalism, according to Marx, the industrial working class, or proletariat, engage in class struggle against the owners of the means of production, or the bourgeois. Okay, so that gets us to our questions, right? So we've gone through each of these and tried to focus in when we talked about them. So now a great thing to do would be go ahead and hit the pause button, make sure you can answer these questions, right? If not, go back into the video, find the answers. That's really the way we commit this information to our memory.